You filthy, disgusting cockroach! You think you can pay at this gas station?
Ma'am, that you can tell me that's not what I meant.
I am so sick of you people crawling into places you don't belong.
I'm sorry you feel that way.
Sorry? You should be sorry. You should be sorry you were born.
She spat on the counter. Then she grabbed a brick and sent it flying through the front window. Glass shattered everywhere. A 19-year-old employee dove to the floor. And then, this woman. She pulled out her phone and called 911, told them an aggressive black man attacked her. She wanted him in handcuffs. She wanted him gone forever. But the man she just called trash, the man she spat those words at, he had a past that was about to become her worst nightmare. Let me take you back. Before the brick, before the broken glass, before Brenda Hoffman made the worst decision of her miserable life. 5:45 in the morning. The sky over Charlotte, North Carolina was still bruised purple. The streets were empty. The air smelled like pine bark and damp asphalt after last night's rain. A black pickup truck pulled into the parking lot of Wilson's Fuel and Go. Nothing fancy. A few years old, a little mud on the tires. The kind of truck that says, "I work for a living." The man who stepped out was tall, broad-shouldered, silver streaking through his close-cropped hair. He moved slow and steady, like a man who had nowhere to rush to but showed up early anyway. That was Grant Wilson. Every single morning, same routine. He unlocked the front door himself, flipped on the fluorescent lights, checked every pump, restocked the cooler with bottled water and sweet tea, brewed the first pot of coffee, always dark roast, always strong enough to wake the dead. By 6:15, the regulars started rolling in. Construction workers grabbing coffee before the job site, nurses finishing night shifts, a retired mailman named Earl who came every morning just to sit on the bench out front and talk about the weather. Grant knew all their names, knew their kids' names, knew who took cream and who took sugar. He'd wave, they'd wave back. That was life at Wilson's Fuel and Go. Now, looking at him, you'd never guess who this man used to be. Grant Wilson served 25 years in law enforcement, started as a patrol officer at 23, made sergeant by 30, lieutenant by 35, and at 40 years old, Grant Wilson was sworn in as police chief of this very county. The first black man to ever hold that title. For 12 years, he ran the department. He hired officers, he trained them, he wrote the policies they followed, he shook their hands at graduation. And when it was time to step down, he didn't just leave, he hand-picked his replacement. Chief Ron Ashford. Grant recruited him as a rookie, mentored him for a decade, walked him through every promotion. And when Grant retired 3 years ago, he looked Ashford in the eye and said, "This department is yours now. Make me proud." Ashford still calls him Chief to this day. So does every officer who served under him. But here's the thing about Grant Wilson. He didn't retire into a mansion, didn't buy a boat, didn't write a book or do a speaking tour. He took his pension, added his savings, and invested in his community. Bought the gas station, bought a car wash down the road, picked up 2 rental properties. He chose a quiet life, on purpose. Most people in the neighborhood had no idea who he was. He didn't talk about it, didn't hang his commendations on the wall, didn't keep a badge in his pocket for show. The only thing behind his register was a faded photo of his wife Vanessa and their 2 grown kids. Vanessa, by the way, was an attorney, sharp as a blade and twice as patient. She told Grant once, "You spent 25 years protecting everyone else, now protect your peace." So he did. And then there was Tommy Ellis. 19 years old, skinny kid with big glasses and a bigger smile. Grant hired him part-time at the station, paid him above minimum wage, worked around his class schedule, and made sure he ate lunch every shift. Tommy had no idea Grant used to be the police chief. None. To him, Grant was just the coolest old guy he'd ever met. The kind of man who'd quiz you on your homework during a slow shift and slip you an extra 20 when rent was tight. Grant never told him. Never told any of his employees. That chapter was closed. Or so he thought. Because 3 blocks away from Wilson's Fuel and Go lived a woman named Brenda Hoffman, and Brenda had been watching that gas station like a hawk ever since the day the "under new management" sign went up. The old owner was a white man named Bill, Brenda's friend. He gave her free coffee, free gas top-offs, little favors between neighbors. But Bill sold the station to Grant 2 years ago, and from that day forward, Brenda Hoffman decided that something about the new owner just wasn't right. She never said it out loud. She didn't have to. Everyone knew exactly what she meant. Now, Brenda Hoffman didn't just dislike Grant Wilson, she resented his existence. In the 2 years since he bought that station, she had filed 4 noise complaints, 2 zoning violations, and 1 handwritten petition passed door to door asking the city council to review the business license of the new operator on Pine Street. Not 1 complaint went anywhere, because there was nothing to complain about. But Brenda didn't care about facts. She cared about feelings. And the feeling she had every time she drove past Wilson's Fuel and Go and saw a black man behind the counter was simple. That doesn't belong there. She said it at dinner parties, said it at church, said it to anyone who would listen. I don't know where he got the money. Things were better when Bill ran it. The whole neighborhood's going downhill. She never once walked in and introduced herself. Never once said hello. 2 years, and she had never spoken a single word directly to Grant Wilson. That changed on a Tuesday afternoon in September. The day was hot, sticky Carolina heat, the kind where the air sits on your chest and doesn't move, cicadas screaming in the trees. The asphalt in the parking lot was soft enough to leave shoe prints. Brenda pulled up to pump number 3 in her silver sedan, filled the tank all the way. $42.16. Then she walked inside. The door chime rang. Cool air hit her face. Tommy was behind the register, restocking cigarette packs on the overhead shelf. "Afternoon, ma'am. You all set on pump 3? Brenda set her purse on the counter, didn't look at Tommy, not once. "I don't pay here." Tommy blinked. "I'm sorry?" "I said I don't pay here. Bill had an arrangement with me, free fill-ups. It's been that way for years." Tommy glanced at the register screen, glanced at the customer file. Nothing. "Ma'am, I don't have any record of that. I'd need to check with the owner." "Then check." "He's in the back. Let me grab him." Tommy disappeared through the stockroom door. 30 seconds later, Grant walked out, calm, steady, wiping his hands on a shop rag. "Afternoon. I'm Grant Wilson. I own this station. How can I help?" Brenda looked at him, really looked at him. Her eyes traveled from his boots to his face and back down again. Her lips pressed together so tight they turned white. "You're the owner." "Yes, ma'am." "Since when?" "About 2 years now." A pause. A long one. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. The coffee machine gurgled in the corner. "Well," Brenda said, "Bill always let me fill up for free. He and I had an understanding." Grant nodded once, not agreeing, just listening. "I appreciate you being a long-time customer, ma'am, but I can't give fuel away. I've got employees to pay, bills to cover. The price is on the pump." "I'm not paying." "Then I'm afraid we have a problem." Brenda's nostrils flared. Her fingers dug into her purse strap. "Do you know how long I've lived in this neighborhood?" "I don't, ma'am." 31 years. 31. I was here before you, before any of this." She waved her hand around the store like it was contaminated. "And you're going to stand there and tell me I have to pay?" Grant didn't flinch, didn't blink. His voice stayed level as pavement. "Yes, ma'am. 4216. Something shifted behind Brenda's eyes. Something ugly. She snatched her credit card out of her wallet, slammed it on the counter hard enough to make the pen cup rattle. Run it. Tommy ran it. Receipt printed. Brenda ripped it from his hand before he could tear it clean. She leaned in close, close enough that Tommy could smell the perfume, heavy, floral, suffocating. "Enjoy this while it lasts," she whispered. "Places like this don't survive long in neighborhoods like mine." Then she turned and walked out. The door slammed behind her hard enough to shake the window frames. Tommy let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. "Mr. Wilson, you okay?" Grant was already back to wiping the counter. Same steady hands, same quiet eyes. "I'm fine, Tommy. People like that, they're not new. They just think they are." That was Tuesday. Wednesday morning came and Brenda came back. 7:15. The sun was barely up. The parking lot was still cool. Morning dew sitting on the pump handles. This time, she brought her SUV. The big one. The tank that cost $80 to fill. She pulled up, filled it to the top. $83.40. Then she walked inside with the confidence of someone who had rehearsed what she was about to say. Tommy was behind the register again. He saw her face and his stomach dropped. "Morning, ma'am." Brenda smiled, a calculated smile, the kind that's all teeth and no warmth. "Morning, sweetheart. So, I spoke with your boss yesterday. He said we worked it out. My fill-up's covered." Tommy hesitated. Something in his gut told him that was wrong. "Let me just confirm real quick. 1 second. He picked up the phone, dialed Grant. "Mr. Wilson, the lady from yesterday is back. She says you agreed to cover her fill-up?" Grant's voice was clear through the receiver. "No, I didn't agree to anything. She pays like everyone else." Tommy hung up, swallowed hard. "Ma'am, Mr. Wilson says there's no arrangement. It'll be $83.40. The smile vanished, just gone, like someone flipped a switch. "Excuse me?" "I'm sorry, ma'am. I just confirmed with him." "You're calling me a liar?" "No, ma'am, I'm just—" "You are calling me a liar. You little— Do you know who you're talking to?" Her voice jumped 3 octaves. The 2 other customers in the store froze. A man holding a bag of chips near the cooler slowly put it back on the shelf. You people are all the same, always covering for each other, always sticking together like rats in a wall." Tommy's hands were shaking. He was 19 years old. He had never been spoken to like this in his life. "Ma'am, please, don't you ma'am me. This neighborhood used to be decent, used to be clean, before your kind showed up and turned everything into a dump." The door chimed. Grant walked in. He had heard enough through the phone before Tommy hung up, drove over in 4 minutes. He stepped through the door and the temperature in the room changed. Not because he raised his voice, he didn't. Not because he puffed up his chest, he didn't do that either. It was his eyes. Calm. Locked. The eyes of a man who had walked into rooms far more dangerous than this one and walked out without a scratch. "Ma'am, I'm the owner. We spoke yesterday. There is no arrangement. You need to pay for your fuel." Brenda spun around, looked him up and down the same way she did the day before. That same disgusted scan. "And if I don't?" "Then I'll call the police and report theft of services." "You're threatening me?" "No, I'm informing you. I have lived in this neighborhood for 31 years, and you have the nerve to threaten me?" Grant said nothing, just stood there, hands at his sides, breathing steady. Brenda's face twisted. Her hand shot out and swept a display rack off the counter. Candy bars and lighters scattered across the floor like shrapnel. A coffee mug shattered against the base of the register. 2 customers scrambled for the door. Tommy pressed himself against the back wall. His heart was pounding so hard he could hear it in his ears. Brenda pointed one trembling finger at Grant's face. "This isn't over. You hear me? This is not over." Then she stormed out. The door didn't just slam, it bounced open and slammed again. Silence. Tommy's hands were still shaking. His eyes were wet. "Mr. Wilson, should we call the police?" Grant bent down, picked up a candy bar off the floor, set it back on the counter, nice and neat. "Not yet," he said quietly. "She'll be back." And he said it like a man who had seen this movie before. A man who knew exactly how people like Brenda Hoffman operated. They always come back. They always push harder. And they always go too far. Grant glanced up at the security camera in the corner of the ceiling. The small red light was blinking. Good. It was recording. He looked at Tommy and said something the kid would remember for the rest of his life. When someone shows you who they are, don't argue. Just make sure the camera's on. Grant was right. She came back. Not an hour later. Not the next day. 45 minutes. That's all it took for Brenda Hoffman to drive home, stew in her own rage, and come back with something worse than words. It was 8:02 in the morning. The sun had just cleared the tree line. The parking lot was half full, a couple of regulars at the pumps, a delivery truck idling near the side entrance. The smell of fresh coffee drifted out through the propped-open front door. Tommy was sweeping up the broken mug from earlier. His hands had finally stopped shaking. Grant was in the back office, reviewing the security footage from the morning. He had already saved a backup copy to his phone. 25 years of law enforcement taught him one thing above all else: always preserve the evidence. Outside, a silver SUV screeched into the lot. No signal, no slow turn, just a hard, angry swerve that sent gravel spraying across the pavement. Two customers at Pump 1 looked up. Brenda stepped out of the car. But she wasn't the same woman from 45 minutes ago. Something had shifted. Her jaw was set. Her eyes were glassy and wide. She wasn't coming back to argue. She was coming back to destroy. She marched across the lot. Didn't go for the door, didn't go for the pumps. She went straight to the landscaping border, a low row of bricks lining the flower bed near the ice machine. She bent down, picked one up, tested the weight in her hand. And then she threw it. The brick spun through the air in a slow, stupid arc. It hit the front window dead center. The glass didn't just crack, it exploded. 1,000 jagged pieces blasted inward like shrapnel from a grenade. Shards rained across the register, across the counter, across the floor where Tommy was standing. Tommy screamed, dropped to his knees behind the register, covered his head with both arms. A piece of glass nicked the back of his hand. Blood, thin and bright, ran down his wrist. Outside, Brenda was just getting started. She kicked the sandwich board sign on the sidewalk. It folded in half and skidded into the parking lot. She grabbed the trash can next to the front door, a heavy metal one, and hurled it sideways into the ice machine. The impact left a dent the size of a football. She was screaming the entire time. "You think you can disrespect me? Me? I will shut this place down. I will have you run out of this neighborhood. You hear me? You're done. Done!" A woman at Pump 2 grabbed her kids and shoved them into the back seat of her minivan. A construction worker at the air station stood frozen, phone in hand, too stunned to move. Inside, Grant heard the crash, heard the scream, heard Tommy yell. He didn't run. He walked. He came through the stockroom door, saw the glass all over the floor, saw the brick sitting in the middle of the candy display like a grenade that already went off. Saw Tommy crouched behind the register, blood on his hand, tears in his eyes. Grant's face didn't change. Not a muscle, not a twitch. He had stared down armed drug dealers in midnight raids. He had negotiated with men holding hostages behind locked doors. He had stood in front of a crowd of 500 officers and delivered a eulogy for a fallen colleague without his voice breaking once. Brenda Hoffman throwing a brick was Tuesday morning. He pulled out his phone, opened the camera, hit record. Then he walked outside. Brenda was standing in the middle of the parking lot, chest heaving, fists clenched, mascara running down her face in 2 black streaks. She looked like a woman who had lost control of herself 20 minutes ago and hadn't figured out how to get it back. She saw Grant, and her voice cracked even louder. You! You did this! You made me do this! If you had just given me what I wanted, if you had just known your place— Grant didn't respond. He stood 10 feet away, phone raised, recording, silent. That silence. It was worse than any comeback, worse than any argument. It was the silence of a man who had already won and was just waiting for the other person to finish losing. Brenda couldn't stand it. Say something! Don't just stand there looking at me with those— Don't you dare record me! Stop recording me! She lunged toward him, not to hit him, to grab the phone. Grant sidestepped, calm, 1 step to the left, like a matador letting the bull pass. She stumbled, caught herself on the pump island, turned around, panting. 2 customers were recording now. The construction worker at the air station had finally raised his phone. A woman in a blue sedan across the street had her window down, camera pointed right at the lot. Every angle, every word, every moment. And Brenda was too blind with rage to notice any of it. Then she did something that would seal her fate for good. She pulled out her phone, dialed 3 numbers. 911. Hello? Yes, I need help. I'm at the gas station on Pine Street. Wilson's Fuel and Go. There is an aggressive black man here. He attacked me. He grabbed me. I think he's going to hurt me. Please send someone. Please hurry. Please. Her voice cracked on the last word, tears streaming. The performance was flawless. If you were only listening, if you couldn't see what had actually happened, you would have believed every word. But Grant was standing 20 feet away, phone in hand, recording. He hadn't moved toward her, hadn't raised his voice, hadn't touched her, hadn't even uncrossed his arms, and every second of it was on camera. Brenda hung up the phone, looked at Grant with a smile that was half triumph, half venom. "They're coming for you," she hissed. "And when they get here, I'm going to watch them drag you away like the animal you are." Grant lowered his phone, saved the video, looked her straight in the eyes. "Ma'am, I truly hope they hurry." That was all he said, and if you were paying attention, if you really understood the weight behind those 6 words, you would have heard it. That wasn't fear. That wasn't a worry. That was a man who knew exactly what was about to happen next. 8 minutes. That's how long they waited. The longest 8 minutes of Tommy Ellis's life. The shortest 8 minutes of Brenda Hoffman's freedom. Tommy pressed a paper towel against the cut on his hand. His legs were shaking so bad he had to lean on the counter. He kept looking at Grant through the shattered window, just standing there, still as stone, phone in his pocket now, arms folded, like he was waiting for a bus. Brenda paced the lot like a caged animal, muttering to herself, fixing her hair, practicing her tears. She checked her reflection in the car window and wiped the mascara streaks into something more presentable, more sympathetic, more believable. She was getting ready for her performance, the poor, terrified white woman, the victim, the one who needed saving. Meanwhile, at Pump 4, a man in a gray hoodie quietly uploaded his video to his cloud drive, just in case. At 6 minutes, the first siren. Faint, far away, but getting closer. Brenda's face lit up. She straightened her blouse, touched her eyes to make sure they were still red, positioned herself right in the center of the lot. Maximum visibility. The patrol car turned the corner onto Pine Street, lights flashing, no siren now. It rolled into the lot slow and deliberate, a second cruiser right behind it. Brenda took off toward the first car before the officer even had his door open. "Officer! Thank God you're here. That man, that black man right there. He attacked me. He put his hands on me. I want him arrested right now." Officer Dale Crawford stepped out. 32 years old, broad shoulders, clean uniform, eyes that didn't miss anything. He scanned the scene. Shattered front window, brick on the floor inside, dented ice machine, kicked over sign, a woman screaming, a black man standing perfectly still with his arms folded. Crawford looked at the damage, looked at Brenda, then looked at Grant. And he stopped. Not a slowdown, a full stop, like someone had pressed pause on his entire body. His partner noticed, stepped closer. "Crawford? What is it?" Crawford didn't answer. He was staring at the man by the pumps, the tall man with silver at his temples, the man who wasn't moving, the man whose posture was so straight and so steady it looked like it was carved out of granite. Crawford's mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. Something was happening behind his eyes, something that started as confusion and ended as recognition. Not the casual kind, not the "don't I know you from somewhere" kind. The kind that makes a man stand at attention without being told. His back went straight, his chin came up, and his hand, almost involuntarily, moved to the brim of his hat. "Chief Wilson?" 2 words. That's all it took. Crawford's voice came out barely above a whisper, but in the silence of that parking lot, it hit like a thunderclap. "Chief Wilson. Sir, is that you?" Grant unfolded his arms, gave a single slow nod. "Morning, Crawford." Crawford's partner, a younger officer named Briggs, looked confused. He stepped forward. "Crawford, what's going on? Who is—" "Shut up." Crawford didn't even look at him. His eyes were locked on Grant. "That's Chief Wilson, Chief Grant Wilson. He ran this department for 12 years. His voice cracked on the next part. "He trained me, personally, at the academy. He pinned my badge on me the day I graduated." Briggs went pale. Brenda was standing 6 feet away. Her mouth was open. Her rehearsed tears had dried up in an instant. "Chief? What are you talking about? He's a gas station clerk. He's nobody." Nobody answered her. Not Crawford, not Briggs, not the 2 customers still standing by their cars. Nobody. Because at that exact moment, a 3rd patrol car pulled into the lot. Officer Ramirez stepped out, mid-40s, veteran, 14 years on the force. He saw Crawford standing at attention, saw Briggs frozen, followed their gaze to the man standing by the pumps. Ramirez stopped mid-step, then his whole body changed, his spine straightened, his hand went to his belt. Not for his weapon, for his posture, an instinct, the same instinct every officer in this county had when Grant Wilson walked into a room. "Chief." A nod, nothing more needed. A 4th car. Officer Dennings, 26 years old. She had never served under Grant directly, but she knew the face. Every officer knew the face. It hung in the hallway of the precinct, first black police chief in the county's history, the man who modernized the department, the man who wrote the use of force policy she carried in her breast pocket. She didn't say a word. She just stood up straight, hands at her sides, eyes forward. 4 officers, 4 cruisers, all of them facing Grant Wilson, not one of them looking at Brenda. Brenda's legs started to buckle. You could see it happen in real time, the confidence draining out of her body like water from a cracked glass. Her lips were moving, but nothing was coming out. "Wait," she finally managed. "Wait. No. That's not... He works here. He's just a..." "He doesn't work here, ma'am." Crawford's voice was ice. "He owns it. And before that, he was my commanding officer. He was all of our commanding officer." Brenda looked at Grant, really looked at him. And for the first time, she didn't see a black man behind a counter. She saw something else entirely. She saw the end of her life as she knew it. Grant reached into his pocket, pulled out his phone. Not the camera this time, the dialer. He pressed one name, one contact. The phone rang once, twice. "Grant." The voice on the other end was warm, familiar, immediate. "Ron, I've got a situation at my station. 4 of your officers are on scene. I need her processed by the book. Full charges." Chief Ron Ashford, the man Grant Wilson raised from a rookie, mentored for a decade, and hand-picked to take his chair, didn't hesitate for 1 second. "Say no more, Chief. I'll make sure of it personally. Every charge sticks. You have my word." Grant hung up. slid the phone back into his pocket. Then he looked at Crawford. Not with anger, not with urgency, with the calm, steady authority of a man who had given 10,000 orders in his career and never once had to repeat himself. Vandalism, destruction of property, filing a false police report, theft of services, every charge available, Crawford. By the book. Yes, sir. Crawford turned to Brenda. Ma'am, turn around and place your hands behind your back. Brenda's whole body started shaking. Her purse fell off her shoulder and hit the asphalt with a dull thud. You can't be serious. I called you. I called you. I'm the victim here. Ma'am, turn around. Now. No! No! This isn't happening. He's lying. He can't be. You're making a mistake. The only mistake made today was yours, ma'am. Crawford took her wrist. She pulled away. He took it again, firmer this time, professional, by the book. Exactly the way he was trained, by the man standing 10 feet away. The handcuffs clicked, one wrist, then the other. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. Brenda was sobbing now, full, heaving sobs, snot and mascara and spit. She twisted around, scanning the parking lot for one sympathetic face. One person who might step in. One person who might say this was wrong. Nobody moved. The man in the gray hoodie was recording. The woman across the street was recording. A teenager who had walked over from the bus stop was recording. Brenda was placed in the back of Crawford's cruiser. The door shut with a heavy, final thunk. Through the window, she could see Grant Wilson, still standing in the same spot, still calm, still steady, his arms folded again, his face unchanged. And then, just for a moment, he looked directly at her through the glass. He didn't smile, didn't gloat, didn't say a single word. He didn't need to. The cops she called had arrested her, on his order, because every badge on that lot existed because of him. The cruiser pulled out of the lot at 8:23 in the morning. Brenda was in the back seat, hands cuffed, mascara destroyed, mouth still moving, but nobody was listening anymore. At the county precinct, she was walked through the side entrance, the same entrance Grant Wilson had walked through 1,000 times as chief. Same hallway, same fluorescent lights, same smell of stale coffee and floor cleaner. But this time she wasn't walking in to file a complaint. She was being booked. Fingerprints. Mugshot. The camera flash made her flinch. Her blouse was wrinkled. Her hair was falling apart. Her eyes were swollen shut from crying. I want a lawyer. This is a setup. That man provoked me. The booking officer didn't look up from his keyboard. Ma'am, you'll have the opportunity to contact an attorney after processing. He's not who he says he is. He's just a gas station worker. He can't order you people to... The officer stopped typing, looked at her for the first time. Ma'am. Chief Wilson served this department for 25 years, 12 as our commanding officer. Every person in this building knows exactly who he is. He paused. Do you want to keep talking, or do you want that lawyer? Brenda shut her mouth. For the first time all day, down the hall, detectives were already reviewing evidence. Grant's security footage, his phone video, 3 bystander recordings, all uploaded to cloud storage before the cruiser even left the lot. Every frame told the same story. Brenda threw the brick. Brenda destroyed the property. Brenda made the call. Grant never moved, never raised his voice, never came within 15 feet of her. Then they played the 911 audio, her exact words in black and white. There is an aggressive black man here. He attacked me. He grabbed me. They matched it to the video, Grant standing motionless, arms folded, 20 feet away. One detective looked at the other. She lied on a 911 call against a retired police chief, while being recorded from 4 angles. He leaned back. This might be the dumbest criminal I've ever seen. Brenda's daughter Diane arrived at 1:15. She walked through the front door already crying. Not angry crying, ashamed crying. The kind where you can't look anyone in the eye. "I'm so sorry," she told the desk sergeant. "My mother—" I don't even know what to say. That evening, Diane called Vanessa Wilson, Grant's wife. "Mrs. Wilson, I'm Diane Hoffman, Brenda's daughter. What my mother did was inexcusable. I'm not calling to make excuses. I'm calling to apologize." Vanessa thanked her, told her Grant held no personal hatred, but the law would take its course. Diane said she understood. She hung up and cried for another hour. Meanwhile, something Brenda couldn't see from her holding cell was happening. The community was showing up. It started around 5 in the afternoon. A pickup truck pulled into Wilson's Fuel and Go, then another, then a minivan. By 6 o'clock, the lot was full, people filling their tanks, buying coffee, buying snacks they didn't need, leaving $10 tips in the jar by the register. Tommy was behind the counter, bandage on his hand, eyes still red, ringing up customers as fast as he could. "Mr. Wilson, there's a line out the door." Grant looked up from his mop, saw the faces, old friends and total strangers standing shoulder to shoulder. He leaned on the handle and let it wash over him. Then retired officers started arriving, men and women who had served under Grant. One drove 45 minutes across the county. Another brought a framed photo from Grant's swearing-in ceremony and set it on the counter without a word. Someone started a GoFundMe. Repair the window at Wilson's Fuel and Go. Goal, $2,000. It hit $15,000 in 24 hours. Grant took what he needed for the glass, donated every penny of the surplus to the county youth center. A local news crew showed up the next morning. A reporter shoved a microphone toward Grant. "Mr. Wilson, what do you want people to know?" Grant looked into the camera. Same calm eyes. "I didn't want this attention. I just wanted to run my business in peace. But if someone wrongs you, don't scream. Don't fight. Make sure the truth is on the record. The truth doesn't need volume, it just needs light." That clip aired at 6. By morning, it had been shared 40,000 times, and Brenda Hoffman was still in a holding cell, waiting for a lawyer who was already dreading the case. Brenda hired an attorney named Gerald Pratt. Cheap suit. Billboard lawyer. He took the case because Brenda's family paid up front. He regretted it by page 2 of the discovery file. 4 camera angles, 3 bystander phones, 1 911 audio recording, and a victim who happened to be the most respected law enforcement officer in the county's history. Pratt called Brenda the next day. "The footage is clear. The 911 recording is clear. There is no angle here." "Then find one." "Ma'am, you threw a brick through a window on camera. You filed a false report on camera. The man you accused was standing 20 feet away with his arms crossed. From 4 different angles." Silence. "I want a plea deal. The DA already rejected one, because this wasn't a normal case anymore. The district attorney, Catherine Moore, had fast-tracked the prosecution. A white woman smashed a black business owner's property, lied on a 911 call, tried to weaponize the police, and the man she targeted was a retired police chief who served the community for 25 years. This wasn't going away quietly. By the time the trial date was set, 4 months later, the entire country was paying attention. The trial opened on a Tuesday in January. Courtroom 3B, Judge Harold Preston presiding, gallery packed, local press in the front rows, national outlets in the back, 3 sketch artists, and in the front row, sitting quietly with Vanessa beside him, was Grant Wilson, dark suit, blue tie, no badge, no uniform, just a man watching the system he built do its job. Catherine Moore stood, walked to the center of the courtroom. "Ladies and gentlemen." On September 14th, Brenda Hoffman drove to Wilson's Fuel and Go. She demanded free gasoline. She was refused, and in response, she destroyed property, terrorized a teenage employee, and fabricated a crime that never happened. She clicked the remote. The courtroom screen lit up. security footage, Brenda picking up the brick, the throw, glass exploding, Tommy hitting the floor, the kicked sign, the thrown trash can, then the 911 audio through the speakers. "There is an aggressive black man here. He attacked me. He grabbed me." Moore paused it. Let the silence sit. Then clicked again. Split screen. Left side, the 911 timestamp. Right side, security footage at the exact same moment. Grant Wilson, motionless, arms folded, 20 feet away. Jurors shifted in their seats. One woman closed her eyes and shook her head. Moore called witnesses. The construction worker, the woman in the blue sedan, Tommy Ellis, bandage still on his hand, voice shaking but never breaking. Then the moment the courtroom was waiting for. The prosecution calls Grant Wilson. Grant stood, buttoned his jacket, walked to the stand the way he walked through every room. Slow, steady, sure. Moore walked him through the events. Grant answered every question short and precise. No emotion, no embellishment. Facts. Then she asked the question that stopped the room. "Mr. Wilson, in your 25 years of law enforcement, including 12 as police chief, have you ever seen a false police report used as a weapon in this manner?" Grant paused. "I have. Many times. Against black men. Against Latino men. Against people guilty of nothing except being in the wrong place with the wrong skin color." He looked at the jury. "That's why I knew to start recording. Because I've seen what happens when there's no camera. It doesn't end with a trial. It ends with a funeral." Dead silence. A woman in the gallery started crying. Defense had nothing. Pratt put Brenda on the stand. A mistake. She said Grant intimidated her with his size and presence, said she felt threatened, said the neighborhood used to be safe. The jury saw through every word. 12 people who had watched the footage, heard the 911 call, and seen Grant speak with more dignity in 5 minutes than Brenda had shown in 50 years. Deliberation took less than 2 hours. Guilty. All counts. Vandalism, destruction of property, false police report, theft of services, disorderly conduct. Judge Preston read the sentence. 18 months probation, $12,000 restitution, 200 hours of community service, mandatory anger management, permanent restraining order, 500 feet from Wilson's fuel and go and any Wilson family member. For life. The false report conviction on her record. Permanently. Every background check, every job application, every rental agreement, forever. Preston removed his glasses. "Mrs. Hoffman, filing a false police report wastes critical resources. It endangers innocent lives. It erodes the public trust that holds our justice system together. You used that system as a weapon against an innocent man. This court will not tolerate it." Brenda stared at the table, didn't cry, didn't speak. She had nothing left. The story didn't end in that courtroom. It exploded. Footage hit social media that evening. 2 million views by midnight, 11 million by the end of the week. The headlines wrote themselves. Woman calls cops on black gas station owner. Turns out he's their former chief. She threw a brick through his window. He threw the book at her. Brenda's social media was unearthed within hours. Years of posts. This neighborhood is changing and not for the better. Photos of Grant's station with captions like, "Another one bites the dust," dog whistles so loud they were foghorns. She lost her job at a real estate office by Thursday. Her church released a statement distancing themselves. Neighbors stopped returning her calls. Op-eds poured in. Legal analysts called it a textbook case of weaponizing emergency services against black Americans. Civil rights organizations cited it in policy briefs. Grant was invited to speak at a regional law enforcement summit on bias and false reporting. Chief Ashford issued a statement the day after the verdict. Chief Wilson built this department on integrity and service. What happened to him is a reminder of why we do this work and who we are sworn to protect. Every officer in this county stands with him. The county DA announced a formal review of false report penalties, citing Grant's case. 2 neighboring counties followed within the month. And the city council, unanimously, passed a resolution supporting minority-owned businesses. They named it after the gas station on Pine Street, the Wilson Resolution. 6 months later, Wilson's Fuel and Go was still standing, stronger than ever. The window had been replaced weeks after the incident, brand new glass, thicker than before, and right next to it, bolted into the brick wall, was a small bronze plaque. Built on respect, sustained by the community. Grant paid for it himself. Didn't tell anyone it was coming. Just showed up one morning, drilled 4 holes, and hung it before the sun came up. By noon, someone had posted a photo of it online. By evening, it had been shared 12,000 times. The station was thriving. Grant had hired a second employee, a young woman named Clara, 21, studying accounting at the community college. She and Tommy worked alternate shifts. Grant still opened up every morning at 5:45, still brewed the dark roast, still knew every regular by name, but something had changed. The parking lot was busier now. Not just locals, people drove from 2 counties over just to fill their tanks at the station they saw on the news. They'd buy a coffee, shake Grant's hand, and tell him what his story meant to them. He never knew what to say to that, so he'd just nod and say, "Appreciate you stopping by." Tommy got his scholarship. A full ride to the state university. The recommendation letter Grant wrote was 3 pages long, and the admissions office later told Tommy it was the most compelling letter they had received in a decade. Tommy cried when he found out. Called Grant from the parking lot of the financial aid office. "Mr. Wilson, I got in. Full ride. I got in." Grant was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I know you did. Now go make it count." The retired officers still came by every morning, coffee and conversation. They had turned the bench out front into an unofficial gathering spot. Earl, the mailman, was still there too, still talking about the weather, still complaining about his knees. Vanessa joked that Grant was the most famous gas station owner in the Carolinas. Grant would just shake his head and pour another cup of coffee. "I'm not famous," he told her once. "I'm just stubborn." She laughed. "Same thing, baby." As for Brenda Hoffman, her world had collapsed in on itself like a house made of wet cardboard. She completed her 200 hours of community service. The court assigned her to a food bank on the east side of the county, a food bank that served predominantly Black and Latino families. Every Tuesday and Thursday for 5 months, Brenda Hoffman sorted canned goods, packed boxes, and handed meals to the very people she had spent her whole life looking down on. Nobody at the food bank knew who she was. They just saw a quiet woman in a hairnet who never smiled and never made eye contact. The volunteers were kind to her anyway. That might have been the hardest part. Her daughter Diane had publicly apologized on behalf of the family, a written statement, short, sincere, no excuses. Diane and Vanessa Wilson had become cordial acquaintances over the months, not friends exactly, but something close to mutual respect. Diane sent a card to the station on its anniversary. Vanessa sent one back. Brenda sold her house 3 months after the trial, quietly, no farewell, no note to the neighbors. She moved to a town 40 miles south where nobody knew her name, or so she hoped. Because the internet never forgets, and the video of a woman throwing a brick through a black man's window and then getting arrested by the cops she called wasn't going anywhere. Grant Wilson didn't yell, didn't swing, didn't pull rank until the moment it mattered. He pressed the record. He stayed calm, and he let the system he spent his life building serve him back. That's not a weakness. That's power, the kind that doesn't need to announce itself. So here's my question for you. Have you ever watched someone try to tear down what another person built, just because they couldn't stand who built it? Drop your story in the comments. I want to hear it. And if this one hit different, if you felt that knot in your stomach, that heat in your chest, that moment when the officers said, "Chief Wilson," and everything flipped, then smash that like button. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And subscribe so you never miss the next one. Because the next one, it's going to hit even harder. I promise.
Grant Wilson pressed record, stayed calm, and let the system he spent 25 years building serve him back. But here's what keeps me up at night. She stood 20 feet from a man who hadn't moved, hadn't spoken, hadn't raised a hand, and she picked up the phone and called him aggressive, called him a threat. That's not a mistake, that's a weapon, and Grant knew it because she'd seen it destroy lives for 25 years from the other side of that edge. That's why the camera was already rolling. That's why he never flinched. He knew the truth only survives if someone captures it. And how many people out there don't get that chance? No camera, no witnesses, no proof, just their word against a lie, and a system that doesn't always listen. So I want to ask you something. What is it about someone else's success that makes certain people reach for a break? And when the world throws that brick at you, what keeps you from throwing one back? Drop your answer in the comments. If this story hit different, like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss what's next. Because the truth doesn't need volume, it just needs light.